Hey guys, so it is Miscellaneous Monday here on the Daily Vape. I'm IndoorSmokers, your host, and today we're going to be getting motivated. So, I am currently gaining about 2,000 subscribers a week. So I almost feel the need once a week to welcome everybody to the IndoorSmokers family, kind of tell you guys how this daily vape thing works. So I do videos 5 days a week. Now generally on Mondays and Fridays, I'll do non-e-cig specific topics. I started doing the extra couple of days a week so I would have something where I could do my own interests and things I really wanted to talk about, which generally ends up being philosophy and history, and I usually try to do some type of a motivational, inspirational bent, or at least things through my education, through my academic years, stories and historic events that I really found to be poignant and motivational. So I just like to share those with my viewers, and Mondays are usually the days we do that. So hopefully you guys like it. I love them. They're probably my favorite videos to do, although maybe the least popular. It just depends. Some people just don't like that educational stuff, you know? So today I plan on just telling you guys a story while I vape on my Camry K1000 ePipe with a Nautilus tank from Aspire. This is an incredible combination, besides just looking bomb. And of course my black cherry berry from Poconos Vape. Alright, so today I'm going to tell you guys a story. We're going way, way back. Talk about retro, we're going back to about 500 years BC, ancient Greece. This is one of the greatest battles that has probably been in recorded history. Now this is also a really good example of one of the times where taking the punches is what really counted, although they gave some pretty good fucking punches too. So we're talking about the Battle of Thermopylae Pass. And maybe some of the younger viewers know it as the 300 because it was a movie recently, a remake of a movie from the 70s called The 300 Spartans, called The 300. And some of you might be surprised to know I actually really like that movie. It's not 100% accurate, but it's basically pretty accurate with embellishments. So, the Battle of Thermopylae Pass. So you basically have Greece on the one hand and the Persian army on the other hand. So really what you need to know about the Persian army is it was huge. One of the largest armies ever assembled on the face of the planet. Some estimates have it upwards of 500,000 troops. Most cities at that time, there were very few cities over 10,000. They said that the army would drink rivers dry as it marched. More than likely, it was probably because they would dam up rivers when they set up camps. For fishing, for irrigation, for everything they would need. So if you were a farmer or a village downriver, all of a sudden the water just turns into a trickle and there's nothing coming, and then you get word that the Persian army's up above and you know you're fucked. You better start heading out of town. So anyway, so this is what we're facing. Now, it's the Spartans who ended up having to face the Persians because they just happened to be in the right place at the right time to make the rush to catch them at the pass. Now, Thermopylae Pass was basically a little rocky pass on a mountainside with a river on one side and a crevasse and a mountain wall on the other. So it was a narrow point. It was a bottleneck. That's the whole key to this battle, is that bottleneck and the courage and the valiantry of the Spartan troops that fought there. So on the other side, facing this army of up to 500,000 are a few hundred Spartan troops. Now, they rushed to cut them off at a great strategic battle point, the Thermopylae Pass, which is narrow enough, maybe only 100 yards across at its most narrow. So you're able to set up where you only have so many soldiers that can be confronted. So no matter how many soldiers the enemy has, he's only going to be able to throw up, you know, so many at that front line at a time. So it's a great strategic place when you're outnumbered. Alright, so you got Leonidas and his few hundred meager Spartan troops. And then on the other side, you've got the Persian army, one of the biggest the world has ever seen, coming fucking right up at you. 500,000 troops. Xerxes, who is the leader of the Persian Empire, who's actually on site for the battle. He wants to witness the conquering of Greece, which should have gone so easy because there was no armies in Greece that came close to the size of what the Persians had. But there was an interesting point made when Leonidas was confronted by the point of how many more soldiers and how outnumbered they were by the Persian army. He said, you guys have 500,000 merchants, blacksmiths, farmers. I don't see any warriors. We have 300 warriors behind me. Because, of course, the Persian army was mostly conscripted, and they had dragged along most of the people who were there to fight with them. The Spartans, on the other hand, are defending their home territory, and this is what they've done their whole lives. This is all the Spartans do. This is all they know, is train and fight and plan for the next big fight. And that's what they love. This is like football players playing football. This is what they do. So, you get Xerxes. He hears about this little group of a few hundred fucking Spartans that are blocking this pass. And he's got this huge fucking army. And you got to remember, an army that size needs to eat and needs to drink. So you've got to keep moving. You can't get stuck in a landlocked spot where you don't have access to water, fishing, hunting, that kind of thing. So you've got a limited amount of time. So upon hearing about this, few hundred Spartans up there, Xerxes sends somebody up to take a look because he figures these guys have probably been forced to fucking go up there and block this pass while the rest of the Spartan army is hiding behind there getting ready to fight them as they come out. And so these guys don't want to be there. You know, they're probably all shivering, ready to fucking bolt. So he wants this guy to go up there, take a look and see what they're doing. See if these guys are just going to run off when we come up or whether there's going to be an actual problem or not. So he comes back and tells Xerxes, they're fucking combing their hair. They're fucking drinking. They're telling stories. They're basically partying. They're having a party and they're getting ready. They're decorating their shit. They're putting on their face paint. They're getting their hair all done. And they're getting ready to fight. This is a football team getting ready to play the big game. This is before the Super Bowl. So anyways, so this is the first thing. This is the first sign to Xerxes that there might be trouble. Now, what the fuck is going on? These motherfuckers are up there acting like they're excited. Do they not see? We've got, hundreds of thousands of troops. What the hell? So anyways, the first threat is basically, look, we'll just send the archers out. They've got like 20,000 some archers. And of course, one of the most famous lines from this is when one of the Spartan scouts comes back and tells Leonidas that there's so many archers up there that they're going to block out the sun with the arrows. And so rather than being frightened by this news, Leonidas simply says, well, that's good news then, because that way we can fight in the shade. So anyways, that's stoicism. That's basically, not only is this a great example of human courage, but it's a great example of stoicism and stoic virtues in action. So Leonidas says, fuck it then, we'll fight in the shade, bitch. What you think of that? So anyways, so the first, that's what they do. So they just launch and launch, arrow attack after arrow. But the iron of the shields and the helmets and the armor of the Spartans is too heavy. And it just deflects the arrows. So they get some scrapes and scratches, but nothing. Nobody serious, no fatalities. After hours and hours and hours, because they just figure they're going to just run these fucking little band of guys off. What the hell? So now Xerxes is frustrated. Like, Jesus, now we're going to actually have to take some time, send in units, and go wipe these guys out. So he sends in 10,000 of his basic infantry to go face the Spartans on day one. And man, these guys collide in that little pass, that crevasse. And for the next 3 days, one of the most incredible examples of human courage and resilience that's probably ever taken place, or at least recorded. These guys were lucky because Herodotus was around to document the events. So what you got to know about the Spartans is that they fight in a phalanx, which means they have the front row lines up basically with shield and sword, and is going to block anything. They're basically lined shield to shield to shield to shield with one sword out. Now the guys behind them in the second row have got their pikes and the spears back there with like 10-foot long poles, and they're basically just stabbing over the shoulder of the guy in front of them. And then you've got a row behind them doing the same thing low, sticking those spears out just at the waist of the guys in front of them. So when the armies get pushed into this, especially when you're pushing 10,000 people down this narrow ravine, it's just like if you've ever been in the mosh pit at a concert, man. You got very little control at that moment of where you're going to go because everything's just pushing forward. And now you're coming up on this Spartan human Cuisinart, literally going on in front of you with nothing but spears coming out and swords hacking and no place to go, and they literally slaughter row after row after row after row all day long of Persians, and Xerxes just keeps sending them and sending them, and they just, finally it gets so messy that you can't even fight anymore because the dead bodies are piling up so high that the Spartans begin to do fake retreats just to move back to allow the army to come in, and then they turn in phalanx again. Boom! And start Cuisinarting those sons of bitches again. So an entire first day goes by, not one Spartan dies. Not a Spartan dies on the battlefield. You probably got thousands and thousands of dead Persians. Now, before the day ends, Xerxes finally so frustrated. I mean, you really just thought they were going to run off initially. Then you find out they're not going to run. They're going to fight. Now we got to actually deal with this little band. So now you send out the archers and you figure that's going to take care of it. You know, either slaughter most of them or who's left are all going to be disbanded and run. Now that doesn't work, and they're still standing there and they're still waiting for you. And so now you send in 10,000 of your infantry getting slaughtered. You've gotten nowhere. You haven't even killed one Spartan yet. I mean, this has got to be getting in your head. This has got to be one of those what the fuck moments, you know? So he goes ahead and sends in his elite force, the Immortals. These are your special forces units. These are your Green Berets. But even the Immortals fare no better. I mean, these guys were supposed to be unbeatable, and yet they come in and they do no better against these fucking Spartans, because of course the Spartans' main army, every man in the army was an elite force. That's the way they're trained. So basically day 2 is just more of the same. The Spartans holding at their point with the phalanx, the Persians coming in with everything they can, nailing at that wall and not moving them an inch. And they fight a whole second day. And then finally, on the third day, still getting nowhere. You've got some Spartan deaths. You're starting to dwindle the numbers down, but they are still fucking holding. And may have held indefinitely, except you get a traitor from the Greeks who actually probably bribed, shows the army, the Persian army, a route where they can slip around the pass and come around behind Leonidas and his troops and basically flank the Spartans. And once they're able to get around behind them, then of course the whole advantage of the pass is lost. And so the Persians do in the end win that battle, but they lose the war. In large part because of the inspiration to the rest of the entire Greek continent at the time of what these Spartans had do. It still inspires us to this day. And now what is so impressive is the way those Spartans accepted their fate. The way they went into this knowing none of them had a pretext that they were coming home facing hundreds of thousands of troops with a few hundred of you guys out there. You know you're not going home. This is what was important to those guys, was the glory. The fact that we would be sitting here today talking about this, still talking about what they did that day. Thousands of years in the future. You ever going to do something people are going to be talking about thousands of years from now that they're still going to be teaching in universities all over the world? So if 300 Spartan troops can stand up to 500,000 Persians simply through their resilience, then what can't we stand up to in our lives, really? What are we facing that's so tough? Because once again, that's Cool Hand Luke. You're going to have to fucking kill me. That's Muhammad Ali taking down Frazier in the 8th. That unwillingness to surrender. That simple stance that I am going to stand here and take this stand until you kill me and step over my dead body. But until that moment, I ain't going anywhere. So I guess in life, we have to decide what's really important and what really matters to us and make our own Battle of Thermopylae Pass. When that time comes, what are you willing to stand for? Alright guys, that does it for this Miscellaneous Monday. Tomorrow we'll be back on the electronic cigarette track with a Topic Tuesday that will be vaping related. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Monday, and I will see you tomorrow. And then the poor Persians were the butt of jokes for decades to come after that. How many Spartans does it take to stop a Persian army?